Let's go. Welcome to this special New Year press talk. So we're gonna answer this Q&A. I'm not alone today. You can see I'm with Ricardo Gutierrez, our Secretary General, and our Director Renate Schroeder, with my English, my French accent. We're gonna go through the questions. You posted in an anonymous way on Slido. I propose to start with this question. How can people join our federation, the European Federation of Journalists?
Well, we are a federation of, we are a professional federation, a federation of journalist organizations. So it's not possible to join the EFJ as an individual journalist. You know, some journalists sometimes call us asking us, is it possible for us to become a member of the EFJ?
Yeah, it's not possible. This is good to clarify,
exactly.
Because often we get requests.
So we are a federation of journalist organizations. Our members are national associations of journalists or national unions of journalists. And we have 73 or 74 member organizations in 44 European countries. So it's possible for a national organization representing journalists at national level to apply. It's a decision taken by the steering committee, which is the governing body of the federation. You know, it's the classical ways to submit an application form, of course, to contact us before, and then the steering committee will decide if you comply with the requirements to be accepted as a member or not.
And there was a question if we have a list of all our members.
Yes,
and on the website.
Exactly, on the website there is a section called Members.
Members.
Exactly, it's clear. And on that list you can find 74 member organizations organized by countries. So from I think Albania to Ukraine. 44 European. We are present in all the member states of the Council of Europe except Moldova. Renate, help me.
Well, it's Monaco, Liechtenstein.
Exactly.
And how does the EFJ manage to protect journalists' rights everywhere in Europe? You see, I'm going through all the questions.
You want me to start?
Yes, it's your turn.
Because this, of course, is a big challenge. As Ricardo just said, we are not only having members in the EU, but in the Council of Europe. And you can say a few words what we are doing at Council of Europe level. When it comes to EU, we are doing a lot in terms of lobbying to have an enabling environment at legal level. With lots of work and almost tears, we were just able to adopt the first legislation when it comes to media freedom, the so-called European Media Freedom Act, which has to be adopted at each member state's level by August this year. This is a regulation dealing with protection of sources, with protection from surveillance, with the editorial independence, for journalists in general, specifically for public service media. It deals with content moderation from platforms, so that platforms are not the only ones who decide which content to leave and to keep. And there is a lot on that, but that would ask for a special podcast only on the MFA.
And you contribute a lot to this MFA.
And it wasn't easy because member states were not very fond of having it, but also on some issues, media publishers organizations didn't want to have transparency on media ownership, for example. They wouldn't give away any editorial freedom to journalists. They want to keep it themselves. So we had many challenges, but we ended up with having that. We also were able to get a directive on anti-slaps, and we have some recommendations on the safety of journalists because it's getting worse day by day. You know that very well because you're monitoring alarms. And maybe you want to say 2 words what's done at the Council of Europe level.
Yes.
We have a question actually.
Okay. So let's wait for the question.
I don't want to spoil, but...
No. Just last word on the European Media Freedom Act is now for us it's very important that this is implemented at national level in an ambitious way,
Of course.
that it's not only paper, and it's still a lot of work to get there.
Yes, and we have strong members, so we are aware of not like most of the cases and providing support, because I'm reading a question asking if we have kind of a mechanism to monitor all the press freedom violations in Europe and if it's accessible to public. And of course we have this media freedom rapid response which is co-founded by the EU. I'm monitoring alerts, so we go through, like, with our members, we have strong cooperation with our members, so they provide us with information, also with the network of journalists and with our partners from this MFR. So we monitor, we do like advocacy, fact-finding missions, and also we can also provide support, like practical support. If not on paper, we can provide legal help, like fundings, psychological support. It depends, like if a camera is broken in a protest, let's say, we can also provide financial help, but it's always assessed by case, depending on the budget available also. But yeah, it's just not about monitoring, which is really important, I want to say, because I kind of feel like journalists sometimes are like, yeah, you know, but I'm not the only one, it's okay, I'm used to it. But you should not get used to a threat. It's important to report, to track, and also for other journalists to feel supported, because you're not the only one facing threats for your journalistic work. So yeah, this is on the monitoring side. But I saw one question, it's how do we proceed to identify, to verify, to check, to cooperate with this Council of Europe platform when we are flagged about press freedom violation?
I think the fact that we are member-based organizations is really important in this case. Because the first reaction from our side is to contact our members in the country where the violation happened, just to check the facts. And we have, of course, a trust relationship with them. So we trust them, they trust us. So it's really easy to get the facts right when we contact our affiliates, the trade union or the association in the country. And coming back to this mission of monitoring, I think it's really important, because it's the first step when you need to protect press freedom. The first step is to have an objective view on the situation, because most of the member states of the EU would be tempted to say that there is no problem of media freedom in Belgium or in the Netherlands. That's not true, because we monitor in a very precise way with the help of our affiliates at the national level. Because we monitor all these cases, we can say now that press freedom is at stake everywhere in Europe, and not just in the usual suspects. Exactly. 10 years ago, we used to say that press freedom was an issue in Turkey, Azerbaijan, Ukraine. That's not true. We also have, of course, not the same kind of media freedom violations. We don't have journalists in prison in Belgium or in France, but we have issues. We have cases of journalists having, being attacked or harassed. So it's important for us to have this view, which is really objective, to push the governments and the intergovernmental organizations like the EU, the Council of Europe, the OSCE, to take action, to decide on regulation, as you said, regarding the, anti-SLAPP directive, the recommendation on the safety of journalists. So this does not come by chance. It's because we are lobbying these organizations with the facts we collect to push them to adopt such regulations, such rules.
And also, like with this Council of Europe platform, we have the soft power to ask for
Yeah, that's a specificity of the. Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard actually to, like when we submit the case, to ask exactly what we want, because it depends on the case by case, and we have legal advisors, and it's really well coordinated. But what I wanted to say is that if you take the MFR platform, for example, Germany right now, with the numbers of alerts in 2024, is the most problematic country, but it doesn't mean that on the ground it's the worst. Like, of course, all the threats are different gravity, but it's because we are more informed, we have strong unions, we have access to information, where in maybe some other countries concerning things are happening, but we are just maybe not aware, or less aware, because we have a really good cooperation with our affiliates. But just a disclaimer, because we got some questions like why Germany, or so.
Yeah, I think in Germany we have two very active unions. We also have the European Center for Press and Media Freedom in Leipzig, and they are organizing also at local level, specifically in the regions like Saxonia-Anhalt, where we have more alerts than in other regions of Germany. So it is very high, and that doesn't mean that it's worse than in other countries, but it also means that we have serious problems in Germany.
Yeah, and especially at the protests, a lot of physical attacks, obstruction of reporting. Yeah, no, it's really concerning. Ok, I have a question in French, so I'm going to translate. Comment arbitrez-vous les sujets d'actualité à mettre en lumière? How do you decide which subject you want to highlight, work on? Because it's true that we are aware of a lot of cases, but sometimes we need to make some decisions. So
it depends a bit on the context we face. Some issues were not so important for the EFJ 10 years ago. I think safety first became a real problem in Europe. It was not a problem 20 years ago. Ethics, because of the issue of disinformation, is becoming more and more important for us. So how we decide what is important or not, it's based on the annual meetings we have with our members. You know, they draft motions which are adopted, and these motions are our working program. So it's based on the input from our own members. Again, as a member-based organization, it's our duties to follow to implement the demands from our affiliates. And I think that that's how we decide what to focus on. And then our work on the ground, Renato, myself, the members of the staff are visiting. Exactly, we are visiting countries, we are on missions, and it's a way for us to perceive the major issues journalists are facing on the ground. And yes, that's a mix of political input from our political bodies, our members, and what we experience on the ground.
For example, we just had now a visitor from Sweden, from our union there, and we discussed recruitment, but we also discussed the problem of brain drain in journalism. People are leaving the profession. The problem of also bigger Swedish media union who are cutting. The problem of new groups entering journalism, influencers, podcasters, who also often are not very interested in trade unionism, because we are a unions federation, so recruitment without our member unions, who are strong and who are able to organize journalists, we are not strong. Our strength depends on our members, so we need this constant dialogue with our members, and I think that makes us different to other organizations who are as strong but working on a different level, like Reporters Without Borders or the Committee to Protect Journalists. The important thing is that we work at European level really well together, and that's crucial.
I'm reading, what should be the EFJ's focus regarding its advocacy work in 2025? And AI, rule of law. So you mentioned a bit.
Well, I think specifically from our members who are a little bit more on the South and Central Eastern Europe, who do not have a strong legal environment. The Nordics are still doing rather well. For them, this European Media Freedom Act is crucial, and the only hope, many like Italy, Spain, Greece, they turn to Europe and they say Europe is our only hope. We won't get it with our politicians we have. So this is why it is so important now to put at national level pressure to the legal system, but then also to put pressure at the European Commission to be very serious when it comes to the enforcement. So yes, the European Media Freedom Act is very important for, I think, our members who are a bit more north and who have less problems regarding this legal environment. Still, for them, the whole field of generative AI is crucial, and the question of authors' rights, of fair remunerations, but also the future of journalism. When you have AI systems, be it ChatGPT or even Google Search, who summarize the news, who grab data without giving it back, why should people in the future buy expensive news? Because we know journalism is expensive. So we have huge issues and ever more with the practice of the digital platforms who are monopolies. We see what's happening in the United States at the moment with the richest man in the world owning his own digital platform. And we see with AI-driven generative data what's at stake. So it's a lot.
But speaking about the US, I have kind of it's the spicy topic of the moment. What was the decisive factor to leave X for Bluesky?
Well, simply because X became a tool, a propaganda tool, political propaganda tool, in the hands of the richest man of the world, using that tool to have an impact on global public opinion, you know, to support his own ideas. So this network is not anymore a neutral network where you can share your views or your positions. So it's simply against our values, you know, to remain. It was impossible for a federation of journalists to remain on such perverted, I would say, communication network. And that's a big issue also for the future for us. The growing power of these these social networks, so-called social networks, and the need for governments to support a little bit more than they do journalism as an antidote. We used to say that journalism is the best antidote to disinformation, misinformation. I think we should expect a huge flow of disinformation with these deregulated networks now, because it's not only X, it's Meta. Google also said that they will stop fact-checking activities in Europe, so it's really worrying. We will face a wave of disinformation, and we need more than ever before journalists and journalism to provide reliable information to citizens. So, and we come back to our motto: journalism is a public good. More than ever before, we should remind this, and we hope that we will manage to convince policy makers to support in a better way.
Also in a financial way, because it's also that they have the monopoly. They use their algorithms in a secret way to push information they like, and normally it's lies and disinformation. And they have 80% of the advertisement sector. So how can we afford journalism?
But we still have two questions. How can you effectively counter misinformation spread here by right-wing politicians? In general,
we just said it. I mean, of course, it's not only journalism, but we are defending here journalists. So for us, journalism, if it's done in its proper way, it is the best antidote to disinformation. It's the forced power. It's there to be accountable vis-a-vis politicians, and it's to fact-check this and to be accurate, to do reporting. And in theory, with all the technological innovation and AI used as a tool and not as a replacement for journalists, we can do it. It's possible, very much, if the legal environment and the financial environment is given, and if people are interested in reading it. So that's why we need a holistic approach to support journalism as a public good.
Exactly, and I would say from the monitoring side, there is so much threats coming from officials in debates, news, like they should really stop, like they should refrain from targeting the journalists, because it really fueled the hostility at the press, and the threats are growing and growing, and they should be held accountable also for.
But if Musk and Trump
very
together say
complicated.
legacy media is dead, and the Germans talk about die Lügenpresse, the lying press, and this had an impact in 2016, and now even worse.
Yeah.
So we need a lot of power here.
Power. And the last question, it's a bit more technical. What guidance does the EFJ provide journalists on interviewing people with energy-limiting chronic illness?
Well, that's very
It's
specific.
really specific.
We used to organize training sessions for journalists on specific issues like covering migrations or things like this, but we will never enter into such. We will never issue a policy paper about this specific issue. We rely on our members. They know better than us. Then for such a specific, I would say, approach, you need to take into consideration the national context, which is different, because we have members in Norway and in Cyprus. It's not the same culture, it's not the same. So we will never enter into a so specific, I would say, issue. Of course, our obsession, I would say, is to promote quality journalism in any case, and that means responsible journalism. So taking care of course, not harming the persons you interview. So we have, of course, I would say, general ideas about how to, but we will never provide a specific recommendation to journalists.
Could be a work of press council, of media councils, to come up together with journalists, civil society, publishers, such recommendations. But that's not our task.
Okay, we arrived to the end. Thanks a lot.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
I think it's good also to sensibilize,
Transparency,
to be transparent,
exactly.
and now it's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.